It appears that if Holly Willoughby can't have the gong, she'll have the money instead. After her embarrassing defeat to Repair Shop's Jay Blades at the National Television Awards, it was reported that Hungry Bears, Holly Willoughby and her TV producer husband Dan Baldwin instructed their driver to take them to the nearest burger joint to commiserate. But is that the truth? Or were they really celebrating while laughing all the way to the bank? In 2020, Holly's husband Dan Baldwin went into business with none other than the Repair Shop's Jay Blades. At the NTAs, upon celebrating his win, Jay rushed into the crowd and a beaming Holly Willoughby excitedly jumped up to congratulate him, cutting in front of Alison Hammond in the process. And it's no wonder. That tasty little win for their business partner Jay Blades was a personal triumph for the dynamic husband and wife duo. However, is life really a bed of roses for Holly and Dan? Could the stresses and strains from the last few years have taken its toll on their relationship? Could it even have reached breaking point amid the Phillip Schofield scandal? More on that later in this video. Holly's husband's television career started at the BBC as a researcher on kids' TV show Live and Kicking, on which Phillip Schofield made regular guest appearances. He then became a series producer at the BBC aged 26, and went on to become head of programs and production at MTV. Then, in 2014, Dan founded his own company Hungry Bear Media, together with Juliet Dennison and Dragon's Den mogul Peter Jones, who funnily enough has been spotted holidaying with Holly and Dan in the past. And in 2020, Dan teamed up with Jay Blades to form Hungry Jay Media. Dan said at the time, "We're delighted to be teaming up with Jay. He's the rising star in factual entertainment in the UK. We see this partnership with Jay as a long-term collaboration of creativity and social conscience. We can't wait to reveal what we've been working on together." With the success of the Repair Shop and Jay Blades' NTA win, it certainly looks like that little pairing paid off big time for Holly and Dan. And it's not the first time Holly Willoughby's reputation has helped raise the profile of her husband's work. She has previously made regular appearances on Michael McIntyre's primetime Saturday night shows, which are produced by her husband. She has also featured on All Round to Mrs. Brown's, a spin-off of Mrs. Brown's Boys, and has previously captained a team on Celebrity Juice, both of which were produced by Dan Baldwin, who has been dubbed as one of the most powerful men in TV. Dan, whose website profile states, Dan has a wife, 3 children, 2 cats and co-owns a production company. He hasn't got much time for anything else, is also reportedly launching his own talent agency. With all those pies Dan's got his fingers in, it appears that his wife Holly Willoughby is always the one who benefits. Savvy Holly first met her successful husband on the kids' TV show Ministry of Mayhem in 2004, which she co-hosted with Stephen Mulhan, apparently becoming close friends for 6 months before they began dating and then keeping their romance a secret for 8 months. Speaking on her Wild Moon Instagram page, Holly explained, "He came in as our new producer and we started this real intense friendship. It was mad actually. There were sort of 2 other guys that started at the same time, and we just became inseparable. We'd rehearse, and then we'd go out afterwards, and then we'd end up." Holly then pauses before continuing, "We were filming down in Maidstone Studios and we used to stay in a hotel there. And you know everybody would go to the bar and then everybody would come back into either my room or their room and we'd all sit round just talking and laughing, and I just remember it just being such a fun time. I always describe that time as sort of my university years, really. And this must have been 6 months of real intense friendship, and I remember this one night we were in the bar," she added. "I cheers Dan, and I remember my eye just caught him for a little bit longer than it should have done, and I looked at him, and thought, oh my, I fancy Dan Baldwin. And it took me by complete surprise, and then the rest is history." But Holly once explained how her husband really caught her attention with a saucy message. Co-presenter Craig Doyle asked her if she remembered how her husband first put himself out there. He asked, "Can you remember Dan's first opening line or gambit?" Holly replied, "I actually do, but it's not for morning telly." And, during a segment on This Morning about workplace romances, and whether or not they were a good idea, Holly said, "It's quite a normal way to meet someone. It doesn't always have to be some sort of illicit affair. It can be quite a lovely, nice thing." Yet, Holly Willoughby once revealed to Keith Lemon that when she met her future husband, it wasn't love at first sight. Keith had asked Holly if she fancied him, with Holly admitting, "No, not at all, and he'd come from MTV and he was very cool for school. He looked at me like I was this wally of a person. She went on, "I thought, oh, he hates me, he just thinks he's really cool." It was then that Keith asked, "You thought, his AD head?" To which she replied, "A little bit." The pair laughed the moment off, with Holly adding, "Then we became really good friends." After 3 years of dating, Dan reportedly proposed to Holly while she was in the bath on the day they first moved into their first London home together. They officially became husband and wife on the 4th of August 2007, when they married at St. Michael's Church near Holly's childhood home in Sussex, before hosting an elaborate reception at Amberley Castle, where she used to visit as a child and always dreamt that one day she'd get married there. Speaking about her wedding, Holly confessed she was in tears all day, as the emotions of the big day really took their toll. The TV presenter apparently designed her own wedding dress with the help of a pattern cutter from Alexander McQueen, which was completed with lace, long sleeves, an open back and a long train, and she teamed it with an old pair of bright red leather high-heeled shoes that she got remade in white satin for the day. The presenter also revealed that her cake consisted of a lemon and poppy seed tier and a vanilla Victoria sponge tier, and that her first dance song was to English Rose by Paul Weller. There were also plenty of famous faces at their wedding, including Fern Cotton as her bridesmaid and Dermot O'Leary as one of Dan's ushers. They then went on to have 3 children, Harry, Belle and Chester. The family also extended their family unit with a dog, Bailey, a golden retriever. Holly once opened up about motherhood during an interview with Hello magazine, saying, "It wasn't like when I was at school I thought, oh, I'm going to be this big career girl. Being a mummy is definitely my most favorite job of all, without a shadow of a doubt." In 2021, Holly said, "Being a mum is my greatest achievement and yet still my biggest daily challenge to get right." But it's recently been reported that Holly has put an end to her dream of having a 4th child in her mission to focus on regaining her crown as TV's golden girl. By all accounts, Holly and her successful husband's life together appears akin to a bed of roses. But is it all as it seems? Holly once said, "Marriage is a work in progress. You're an idiot if you think you just get married and then you tick along happily ever after for the rest of your life." At the same time, it shouldn't be too difficult, but I do believe tiredness has a lot to answer for, she added. Looking increasingly fragile following the downfall of her former co-host and ex-best friend Phillip Schofield, plus the build-up of stresses and strains of the last few years, kicked off by the Q-Gate scandal. The question is, has it all taken its toll on her in more ways than one? When she escaped to Portugal to spend the summer with her husband and 3 children, Holly, who's usually notoriously private about her marriage, shared a rare loved-up snap of her and Dan locking lips on a beach ahead of their 16th wedding anniversary. She posted the romantic picture on the Instagram page of her wellness brand, Wild Moon, with a link to her blog, teasing Holly's secrets to a happy marriage, going on to say that every relationship is so unique and different. What works for one couple may not for another. Mine would have to be remembering to carve out real time for each other within the madness of everyday life. Everything from making time to talk over dinner at home to date nights. Whatever you do to keep the spark alive, keep it up." The confessions came as a surprise to many fans, since the star rarely opens up about her personal life. But friends of Holly's reported that the toughest few months in her 23-year career have given Holly a newfound perspective on her marriage. Insiders claim that the This Morning scandal has taken a toll on her, and a source told Closer magazine, Holly's come to rely on Dan more than ever over the last few months, and understandably the stress and turmoil she's endured have had a knock-on effect on their marriage, as well as her home life in general. It's something she'll always fight for, as her marriage and family are the main priority in her life. Despite everything, Dan has remained her constant throughout, being the calm, supportive and understanding force she credits for keeping her together in her lowest and darkest moments, which has ultimately made them stronger than ever, and she vowed that nothing can break them. Interesting. Whoever mentioned anything about breaking? How very odd. Even more telling is what the source then added. There have been times when Holly would snap at Dan and take out her upset and stress on him, being the closest person to her. But ultimately he's just loved and supported her even harder in those moments and has been her rock throughout everything. Blinkerhole was quite taken aback when we discovered that rather revealing insight into Holly and Dan's marriage, and we decided to delve a little deeper. In 2017, The Sun newspaper reported that Holly Willoughby might seem to have the perfect marriage to Dan Baldwin, but revealed that she often needs space after their rows. Speaking on This Morning, The mum of 3 opened up on life behind closed doors during a chat about whether couples should ever go to sleep on an argument. Holly confessed, "Sometimes I just need to have more of a level head, so I just go off and calm down a bit. I just need that bit of space." Admitting she sometimes goes to bed with an argument left unresolved. Holly said, "I wake up the following morning and things don't seem as bad. Sometimes you've just rationalized things a bit better in your head, and you're not so emotional and quick to snipe and shout." In 2020, Holly admitted to Keith Lemon that she'd been drinking heavily at home during restrictions, and in 2021, it was reported that Holly had endured a tough time in both her personal and professional life. It was revealed Holly was left feeling drained by rows at home and work, just weeks after the mum of 3 admitted that hitting 40 forced her to reassess her priorities. At that time, after renewing her contract with This Morning until 2023, insiders said Holly and Dan had their ups and downs like any couple, but that it had made them even stronger. Other troubles at that time consisted of receiving backlash from her neighbours for the disruptive renovation plans at her £2.8 million London home. On top of that, Holly became embroiled in a bitter legal dispute with her former agents, YMU, who were allegedly demanding a cut of her future earnings, despite parting ways in 2019 when she set up her own female-led management company, Roxy. At the time, a source told Closer, the ongoing issues with her former agents, the changes at This Morning, and now the war with her neighbours has meant she has felt the strain at both home and work. It's taken its toll and she's feeling totally drained. Holly's marriage to Dan Baldwin also came under scrutiny when she revealed in her book Reflections that the couple, in her words, had blazing rows. She confessed that her drive to be perfect had left her feeling detached from reality, and instead of giving Dan the silent treatment if something is wrong in their relationship, like she used to, she now prefers to rip the band-aid off. "What I've found is that, a lot of the time, we like to stay in the safe middle ground, where everything is nice and smiley and nothing is ugly," Holly said. "But when I started to reconnect with my emotions, I found I was getting angry all the time. And Dan's like, 'I wish you could not be so angry.' So I would be getting really angry, and he would be like, 'I'm not sure this is good.'" Yet Holly insists that she's now learned that rows have actually helped their marriage to remain solid. She said, "It was scary and frightening at first, but I thought, let's just stick with it and see where it goes. And now I love it. Because talking through your problems can take you months or weeks, but in a hot flash of anger, you'll shout something and rip the band-aid off. You don't have to be afraid of it or be scared by it." Holly, who has admitted marriage is not a fairy tale, also gave an account of these rages, saying, "If I'm watching something on TV and my husband suddenly asks, 'Why are you watching this?' it'll spark something deep inside and I will get disproportionately angry about it." She divulged, "He didn't mean anything by it, but the rage I'd feel was disproportionate because I was thinking, 'You think I'm bleep because I'm watching bleep. But actually I'm angry because I subconsciously feel as though someone's trying to control what I'm doing.' Then I'd think, 'That's interesting. I've worked out what's going on here without having a therapist in the room. My husband absolutely isn't trying to control me, but I'm getting a really strong reaction, so maybe I'm worried about control in my life. Maybe that's a sign that I still need to address the issue of control." Despite admitting that she may have been a bit too harsh on Dan, Holly acknowledged that anger is a brilliant emotion. The mum of 3 added to the Daily Mail, "Anger is a brilliant emotion because it cuts through BS, and if you can work out where it comes from, it can be very revealing." Holly, that same year, confirmed that her relationship with Dan is very happy. She waxed lyrical over her fantastic husband, telling Zoe Ball on her BBC Radio 2 breakfast show, "I have a very happy relationship with my husband. I love him, I still fancy him, which is fantastic." Holly later that day was a guest on Heart Radio where she said despite her perfect-seeming family life, she started feeling something wasn't quite right elsewhere. When asked by hosts Amanda Holden and Jamie Theakston what inspired her to write a book, the presenter said, "The last few years I've been looking inward a little bit. I sort of got to this stage in life where I was like, I've got a really lovely life. I love my husband. I fancy my husband. I've got great kids. I'm blessed in many ways, but something is missing." She explained she couldn't work out what was wrong, but having looked inwardly, she realized, "It's me. I'm missing." Speaking on the Chris Evans breakfast show, Holly elaborated further, saying she was coasting through life, coping and getting on with this huge to-do list, whether it's being a parent, or your job or your career. The This Morning presenter said it seems like society has reached a point where you're high-fiving yourself for being incredibly busy. It's like a badge of honor to sit down at the end of the day and be utterly exhausted. She reiterated that she loves her husband and children and career, but it felt like there was something missing somehow. I thought, what is this? What just doesn't feel right? What's going on here? And I realized the thing that was missing was me. All of these tiny little pieces of me were going in all different areas of life, and I just needed to pull a little bit of it back, because I'd lost myself a little bit. Holly's troubles, as we know, then went from bad to worse, with the furore surrounding the Q-Gate scandal, in which it appeared that she jumped the long wait at the late Queen's lying in state in 2022, and of course, this year, Holly then became embroiled in the Phillip Schofield scandal, with many not believing her insistence that she knew nothing of her former bestie's relationship with a young runner. To conclude, with Holly Willoughby's very revealing insights into her relationship with her husband and indeed, her state of mind in 2021, add to that the catalogue of stressful events that followed, goodness knows how she is coping in her private life today. She currently has immense pressure loaded upon those increasingly fragile-looking shoulders. Could it all become too much to bear for ITV's Queen Bee? Could we soon see Holly Willoughby deserting the disintegrating This Morning hive for some less demanding projects in order to nab herself a better work-life balance, which would enable her to spend more time at home? Or is she going to dig her nails in the dirt and fight to the end to restore the cracked jewel in her This Morning crown, continuing to irk the public with her grin, risking further damage to her already waning reputation and the very real possibility of losing it all? We'll have to wait and see. Please like and subscribe for more journeys through the Blinkerhole. For entertainment purposes only. Keep up to date with our latest investigations and hit the join button. If you like what we do, send us a super thanks. Official Blinkerhole merchandise is available in store.